seen she's right. He is still wrong, whether he knew how to argue better or not. You see? So there's something that Nietzsche, there's a kind of dogmatism in here that Nietzsche wants to root out the origins of. A kind of dogmatism, sort of control over the instruments of what will count as true and false. What will count as true and false. That's very important to get at. Now, the banal theory that I promised you that philosophers now hold about the truth is Tarski's theory of truth. It's the redundancy theory of truth. When I state it, I expect some laughter because this is a great product of the modern philosophical imagination. Snow is white if and only if snow is white. Snow is white if and only if snow is white. It's the heart of Tarski's theory. It's the redundancy theory, namely a thing is the case if and only if it is the case. Well, what's odd about that theory of truth, you may notice, is that it's not really a theory of truth at all, now is it? It's sort of a deflationary remark about how we use the word truth. And we do use it in ordinary contexts that way. For example, if I ask someone to hand me a Coke, they hand me a salt shaker, that confuses me. If I say, that's the Coke and it's a lizard, they'll say that's not true, by which they'll mean it's not a Coke, it's a lizard. But this incredible theoretical breakthrough should be not incredible at all, but totally deflationary and remind us that truth in the more mundane sense is just what all of you thought it was. It's what is the case. That view of truth is not exactly what Nietzsche is attacking either, because it's so deflationary that it's almost in the spirit of Nietzsche, if you will, almost, because it's a deflationary theory. It's not some grand theory about how our sentences hook up with the world, or how our great Western texts, Milton, Shakespeare, hook up with our deeper selves and humanize us so that we all vote Republican. It's not that either. It's not that either. See? A mundane use of the word truth. So I think it's very unsatisfying to view Nietzsche as being either a relativist or a perspectivist. What he's interested in are those relations of force and power that would cause a species like ours to develop distinctions like true, false, and then to observe, as he does throughout several works, how a discourse of true, false is deployed, how it is used, what it makes possible and what it makes impossible. And so for me, those are much more interesting questions. How is the discourse of true, false deployed? Nietzsche, the closest remark that he ever delivers to a theory of truth, I'm about to read you, is, and I think this is, again, hyperbole, but it's on the right track as opposed to some other remarks one might make about truth. This is Nietzsche. This is a famous quote of Nietzsche, so I'll give it to you. It's from an essay called On Truth and Lie in the Extra Moral Sense. As we get to later lectures, you'll find out that Nietzsche is going to develop not only criticisms of the criticisms and genealogies, something I'll have to explain, genealogies of how we use words like true, false, truth, lie, but of how we use words that are, in some sense, closer to us, like good and bad, or good and evil. Okay? But in this essay, Nietzsche says the following: what then is truth? A mobile army of metaphors, metonyms, and anthropomorphisms. In short, a sum of human relations which have been enhanced, transposed, and embellished poetically and rhetorically, and which after long use seem firm, canonical, and obligatory to a people. Truths are illusions about which one has forgotten that is what they are. Metaphors which are worn out and have lost their sensuous power. They are like coins which have lost their pictures, faces, and which now matter only as metal, no longer as coins. So that's taken to be one of Nietzsche's outrageous statements about truth, is that it's metaphoric. It's a sum of human relations deployed in many fields of force. In short, mutually agreed upon fictions, which after long use seem obligatory to a people. And I mean, this is, I take it to be one of Nietzsche's stronger remarks about truth. I think it can be, we can make that clear with the history of our own country. There are certain things which after long use have become obligatory for us to believe are true. I have heard, and I've heard it ad nauseum, and until, well, ad nauseum. Let me say it in my West Texas way. Until I want to puke, I've heard it. That the United States is a democracy. Because after long use, after herd-like obedience to this word, we've come to believe it. The most dangerous thing in some ways that threatens our democracy is the belief of the overwhelming majority of our citizens that perhaps in some sense we do have one. If we question deeply what a democracy is, a government in which the power really does come from a people or whatever, we question these worn-out metaphors and looked by, in other words, tried to look for their origins in power and who deploys them, it might become interesting to see that this is an illusion about which we have long since forgotten that it is one. This is, the power of Nietzsche's genealogies is to look at how important words to us like truth, good, evil, and in the case I just used democracy, not in order to destroy these words forever, to destroy their employment, but in order to point out how they become worn out after long use. And certainly, compared to the vibrancy of the word democracy, you know, it's earlier, as he said, earlier when the word was used in the dawning of the bourgeois revolutions, when it was used with such sensuous power, with such effect, you know, with town meetings and public spheres, people fighting things out, vigorous like that, at least as we idealize it. Perhaps that was an illusion too. But compared to that, our current democracy does seem, to borrow the metaphor, to be like a coin without a face, a metaphor that has worn out and lost its power. Now, many of you are going to go, oh, it hasn't lost its power. Hell, everybody's becoming a democracy. The whole world is, which may just simply mean, in Nietzsche's terms, that nihilism, that threat that I mentioned before that comes along with modern life, along with the spread of the commodity and work as the relation that all humans will be subjected to, it may just simply mean that that will win. That will win. And if it's called democracy, it will just be a herd-like lie, something we say to one another so that we don't stand out at dinner parties. I mean, you don't want to stand out when someone well,